Hey friends, happy May 27th. Can't believe it's May 27th. It sure does feel like June. Next week is June, but I'll tell you what, this weather has made me feel like June is already here. It is hot, hot, hot. I hope you guys have a pool or somewhere you can keep cool. We only have one air conditioner and it's in Darby's room. And thank goodness she's staying somewhere else so I can steal her room from her because otherwise I'm going to melt into a puddle. So I don't have a very long story to tell you today, but I got thinking about some funny things. I was trying to tape this message a few minutes ago, and then my cat jumped up on the screen with her entire body and just hung there for no reason at all, except that she's probably going crazy from the heat too. And that got me thinking about my crazy pets that I had when I was younger. So I'm just going to tell you about one of them because, as you know, I'm very worried. I'm running out of stories, but I'm going to tell you about my dog, Shannon. So my dad brought home Shannon. He was a Brittany Spaniel. Now, if you learn anything from this message, learn that Brittany Spaniels are wild. They have a lot of energy. They're kind of like a Boston Terrier, or whatever. You need to or like a Sheltie dog or something. Dogs that like to herd, those dogs need to run all day long. Well, this is kind of like my Brittany Spaniel. He would run. He was a little teeny tiny thing, but he could climb over like a 6-foot fence like it was nothing. And I know this because we put up a big 6-foot fence, and guess who got to climb over it all the time? Shannon. But that dog was crazy. So one time, this happened like more than once, which also makes me think he wasn't very bright, even though he was adorable. He had a pink nose and he had red spots and he had little red freckles and he was so cute. Oh Lord, he was adorable. But so my parents and I would go to my grandparents' cottage every weekend, and we would put Shannon in the back of the truck and hook him onto a little leash back there so he could ride in the truck, which you know how dogs love to have their heads out the window. Well, he was like in heaven, driving to the cottage. But one time, Shannon, I guess he must have been standing on top of the truck cap. He must have had his feet up there, like sitting with his feet up on the cab and with his face in the wind. But then he must have lost his balance or something because he slid it down over the windshield. We were driving down Route 17, Route 86 now. It's kind of like the Thruway, friends. And all of a sudden our dog comes sliding down the windshield in front of us. What? So we had to pull over and get the dog and put him back in the back of the car. And another time he jumped over the side and was dangling there. We saw him in the mirror and had to pull over. So we learned pretty quickly that we couldn't trust him in the back of the truck. I mean, he was crazy. But he was a really good dog. I had another pet that we loved too. Her name was Red Dog, and Red Dog was red. I know it took a lot of thought to come up with her name. We actually called her Red Dog, but her real name was Red Dog. It really was. We called her Red, and she was really pretty. And we got her in the coolest way ever. She walked into my house and laid down on the couch while my dad was mowing the lawn, and then she just picked us as her people. And then she loved us fiercely. She loved us so much. And my brother and I, who were really stupid and we clearly didn't know any better because this is a terrible thing to do, we used to tie her up to our wagon and we'd fill the wagon up with apples. And then we would sit in the wagon and throw the apple, and Red Dog would run for the apple and pull us in the wagon. And we thought it was the greatest thing ever. And now I think it's pretty much probably the meanest thing we ever could have done. She loved to fetch things. I think she was probably half Irish setter and maybe a half lab because she had really long fur, but she wasn't skinny like an Irish setter. She was more like solid like a lab, and she loved to fetch things. If you threw a rock in the lake, say you were just throwing rocks, she would run into the water, put her head completely under the water and pick up a rock and bring it to you. She was awesome. We loved her, except my mom didn't love her as much as we did because Red Dog was madly in love with my father. And so when my dad would go to bed, he would go to bed very early because he had to get up super early for work. So he would go to bed before all of us. And Red Dog would follow him up there and get in bed, and she would sleep on my mom's side. And then when my mom would get in bed and try to go to sleep, Red Dog would growl at her because Red Dog was like, I don't know who you think you are, Sharon. This is my husband. And my mom would be like, Red Dog, you need to move off my side of the bed. And so it was kind of a little bit of a battle. But Red Dog, I think, usually won the battle, but I'm not sure. You'd have to ask Sharon. But speaking of Sharon, I will not be at our meeting today because I am taking my mom down to Portville, where I'm from, in Olean, to take her to the doctor to see how her rib is healing. So she's still hurting, so we're hoping to get her some more medicine and just check her out and make sure she's healing right. And so I will miss you guys today, but I will try to be back on tomorrow. And I hope you have an awesome Wednesday. It is Wednesday already. Good grief. Try to stay cool. I'm sorry my story isn't very long, but I need to get on the road. So yeah, have an awesome Wednesday, friends, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. And if you're stuck on something to do today and you're working on your writing, there is a free writing and you could write about your pets. I always love hearing about your pets. And it kind of is fun to write about pets that you haven't thought about in a while either. That's always fun. Oh gosh, I better take a shower. Sharon's not going to know who I am. Okay. Love you guys. Have a great Wednesday.